उसको भी Good afternoon, one and all. Welcome back to Civics first year class. Yesterday, we have discussed, structure of legislature, and today we will discuss the functions of legislature. Okay, so we'll start with the legislative functions of okay. Okay, so functions of legislature. When we say legislature, what does it mean? Legislature, it is the law-making organ of the government. It is the law-making organ of the government. Legislature, it makes the laws. So the basic function of the legislature is lawmaking. Okay, so the members of legislature, they are called as legislators. They are called as legislators. So these legislators, they are elected by the people. In parliamentary form of government, like in India, the people will elect the members of the lower house, that is Lok Sabha. And the members of the upper house, they are indirectly elected. So the members of the legislature, they discuss all the important matters in detail, and they will make laws after thorough discussions, after detailed discussions. It is not that one fine morning they are getting up, they are going to parliament and they are making laws. No, it is not like that. The items or the subjects on which the law has to be made, that is discussed in detail. Okay, then only the laws are made. So the main function is law making. So that is called as legislative or legislature function. Now the second is function to control the executive. Function to control the executive. Here, the executives, they are the part of the legislature. They are the part of the legislature. In parliamentary form of government, executives are part of the legislature. Executives are part of the legislature. We know the party which secures majority in the legislature, the leader of that party will form the government, will be appointed as the prime minister. So the prime minister is also the member of the legislature. All his ministers are also the member of the legislature. So they are the part of legislature and they are responsible to the legislature. Responsible means answerable. They are answerable to the legislature. Okay, the opposition members of the opposition in the legislature, in the parliament, will ask questions to the government. Okay, they ask questions to the government, and if the government fails to give satisfactory answers, then resolutions can be passed against the government. So the parliament is controlling the executives by asking questions and passing resolutions. By asking questions and passing resolutions, the parliament will control the executive. So the other function of the legislature is it controls the executive. Similarly, here it is, we are talking about prime minister. If we see president of India, if he misuses his position, then the legislature can pass impeachment resolution against the president. Impeachment. This you will again study. This you will again study in your second year. Impeachment. What do you mean by impeachment? Impeachment is to remove. Impeachment means to remove. So, legislature can remove the president if he fails to perform his duties or obligations honestly, or if he misuses his powers. So, this is how the executives are controlled by the legislature. The executives are controlled by the legislature. The next is financial powers. Okay, so the government, it will prepare the budget, okay, every year. And this budget has to be presented in the legislature. The legislature should approve the budget. Okay, legislature should approve the budget. When the government prepares the budget, it will, impose taxes on the people. Okay, it imposes taxes, or sometimes it also cancels the existing taxes. So without the approval of the legislature, government cannot impose any tax on us. Okay, government cannot impose any tax on us without the approval of the legislature. So if the budget of the government is rejected, then the prime minister has to resign. The prime minister has to resign. Okay, that is the financial power. Next is judicial functions. Now, here, the legislature, it acts as the judiciary. That means, what does the judiciary do? It provides justice and it will punish the criminals, right? So, when the president or the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, if they are misusing their position, then they are to be punished, right? So, the the legislature will pass impeachment resolution to remove the president, vice president, chief justice and judges of the Supreme Court and High Court. Okay, if they are misusing their powers. It also appoints various committees to deal with the inquiry about the complaints against the government. So various committees are appointed by the legislature to inquire about the complaints against the government. Okay, so if the complaints against the government are proved, then resolutions are passed against the government. Okay, so that is the judicial function. Next is constitutional functions. It is only the legislature. The legislature alone has the power to amend. Amend means change. Legislature alone has the power to change the constitution. It will initiate the changes in the constitution. If the constitution has to be changed, any change has to be done in the constitution, that can be done only by the legislature. Only legislature can change the constitution, or we say amend the constitution. Okay, now coming to the other functions, okay, it performs other functions like accepting and rejecting the ordinances. So what do you mean by ordinance? Ordinance are the temporary laws. See, the legislature, it functions in different sessions. It meets, normally according to the constitution, it should meet at least twice in a year with a gap of not more than 6 months. Okay, for example, Indian Parliament, it meets thrice in a year, like in February, March, that is budget session. It is budget session. Then July, August, it is monsoon session. And in November, December, it is winter session. So the Parliament, Indian Parliament, it meets thrice in a year. So these are the 3 sessions of the Parliament. So when Parliament is not in session, for example, after August and before November, between this time, between August and November, an important law has to be passed. But Parliament is not in session. Then the President has power to issue ordinance. The President will issue the ordinance. So this ordinance is nothing but it is a temporary law. It is a temporary law. Once the legislature comes into the session, it can accept the ordinance or it can reject that ordinance. Okay, that is the another function of the legislature. It can either accept or reject the ordinances issued by the president. Okay, and then the legislature, it will elect the speaker and deputy speaker among themselves. Okay, the speaker, he is the presiding officer. He conducts the meetings of the house. Speaker, he conducts the meetings of the house. So he is the presiding officer. So who is appointed as the speaker? The members of the house, the members of the Lok Sabha will elect a speaker among themselves. They also elect deputy speakers. So that is the another function of the legislature. It will elect the speaker and deputy speaker in case of Lok Sabha. In case of Rajya Sabha, the members of Rajya Sabha, they will elect deputy chairman. Okay. I hope I'm clear with this. Okay, it is next is executive. And next important question is executive. So you will get one question for sure, either the functions of legislature or the functions of executive or judiciary. So today we will discuss executive and its functions. So executive, it is the second organ of the government which implements the laws made by the legislature. So what is executive? Executive implements the laws made by the legislature. Okay, executive, they actually perform all the function. So they implement the laws made by the legislature. In modern times, these executives are called as government. The executives are called as government. Okay. So let us see the composition. Who are called as executives? The head of the state, okay, or the head of the government also. We have two executives. In parliamentary form of government, we will have two executives. Okay, in presidential form of the government, we will have only one executive. So in parliamentary system, head of the state is president. Okay, head of the state is president and head of the government is prime minister. We have two executives in parliamentary system, head of the state and head of the government. Head of the state is president and head of the government is prime minister. Whereas in presidential form of government, you will have only president. He is the head of the state and he is the head of the government also. So the executive, it consists of head of the state, head of the government, council of ministers. Who are the council of ministers? They are the assistants to the prime minister. Okay, they are the assistants to the prime minister. That is the team of the prime minister. In parliamentary system, we call them as council of ministers. In presidential form of government, they are called as secretaries. Okay, they are called as secretaries. And then you will have all the employees. Okay, all the government employees, they are also part of executive. They are also known as executives. So executives, when we say in modern times, executives are identified as the government. So it consists of the head of the state and head of the government, council of ministers, and the government employees. I hope I'm clear till here about executives. Executives, they are the people who implement the laws made by the legislature. So let us see the functions of the executive. The first is administrative functions. Okay, administrative functions. The first function is administrative function. The executive appoints all the ministers and the officers in the highest rank. If you talk about parliamentary form of government, the leader of majority party is appointed as prime minister. The leader of the majority party is appointed as the prime minister. Then the prime minister, okay, the prime minister advise the president. The prime minister will select his minister. Okay, the prime minister, he selects his ministers. Okay, and advise the president for the appointment. So it is the president who is appointing the ministers. It is the president who is appointing the ministers. Okay. On the advice of the prime minister, president will appoint the ministers. Next is the officers of the highest rank. See, we have various commissions like Election Commission, Finance Commission, Public Service Commission, Human Rights Commission. Okay, so the officers or the members and chairmen of these commissions, they are also appointed by the president. Okay, and it is the responsibility of the government to maintain or to protect the law and order in the country. So for that we have Home Minister. Okay, then if required, they'll create new departments. or they reorganize the existing departments. If required, they create new departments, or they reorganize, they shuffle the departments, reorganize the departments. So that is completely related to the administration. So that is why we are calling it as administrative functions. Okay. It is completely related to the administration, to the it is related to the implementation of the laws, policies and programs. That is why we are calling it as administrative functions. Next, legislative functions. So, what is the role of executive in lawmaking? We know laws are made by the legislature. Then what is the role of executive in lawmaking? See, these executives, they will draft, they will prepare the bills. Okay, they will prepare the bills, they will draft the bills, and these bills are introduced in the legislature. They have to introduce, they have to present these bills in the legislature, and the legislature will pass that bill. Okay, the executive, for example, the finance minister. Finance minister, he will introduce the budget in the parliament. Okay, it is a money bill. It is introduced in the parliament. So both the houses, the budget has to be approved by the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Both the houses has to approve the budget. Then after the getting approved by the legislature, the bill will go to president. It will be presented to the president for the approval. If president is approving the bill, then it will become an act. Okay, after the approval of the president, the bill will become an act. So this is in case of money bill. So it can be any bill. Okay, in case of money bill and budget, the president's approval is before introducing the bill, they will show it to the president. So money bill cannot be rejected by the president. Other bills president can reject. I hope I'm clear here. See, what is the role of executive in the lawmaking? The executives, they will prepare the bill, they will draft the bill. Then they will present it in the legislature. So after getting passed from the legislature, that bill will be presented before the president. And president, after he approves it, it will become an act. The bill will become an act. Okay. Is it clear? The bill becomes an act only when the executive, that is the head of the state, president, approves it. If the president is rejecting that bill, then it is not an act. Now, coming to the financial functions. Okay, just now we have discussed. Executive, they will prepare the budget, how they are going to collect the taxes. Okay, and after collecting the taxes, how are they going to use the tax money? Okay, that budget is prepared by the executive. So that is, we call it as taxation policy. Okay, the budget of the government and taxation policies are made by the executive. Next is defense and foreign affairs. Defense and foreign affairs. So executives, they make foreign policies. They make and implement foreign policies. So what are these foreign policies? This foreign policies, they reflect the terms and conditions on which we are going to have relations with the other countries. Okay. So executive, it will make and implement the foreign policies, and it is the executives who makes treaties and agreements with other countries. Okay, for example, your import and export policy, that is prepared by the executive. Okay, and all the treaties and agreements with other countries are done by the executives. And defending the country, okay, protecting the country from the war or external attack. Okay, that is also the responsibility of the executive. Maintaining, law and order, it is also the responsibility of the executive. Now, coming to the judicial function. The judges of the Supreme Court and High Court, that is the Chief Justice and the judges of Supreme Court and High Court, they are appointed by the President of India. Okay, so here the executive, he is appointing the judges. Okay, he is appointing the judges, and whatever judgments are given by the courts, they are implemented by the executive. They are implemented by the executive. For example, if a court issues an order to ban buying and selling of acid, that has to be implemented. Who will implement that? The government, that is the executives. They will implement that judgment or order of the court. And it can also reduce and cancel the punishment. For example, if the Supreme Court, it gives capital punishment to a convict. Capital punishment means he should be hanged till death. So against the judgment of the Supreme Court, the convict can, request the president to reduce or cancel the punishment. So that we call it as mercy appeal. Okay, it is called as mercy appeal. The president has power to reduce or cancel the punishments of the convicts. So under judiciary function, the first thing is the executive, that is president, he will appoint the judges of Supreme Court and High Court. Not only the judges, the Chief Justice is also appointed by the president. Then it is the responsibility of the government to implement the judgments, to implement the judgments of the court, and they can also reduce or cancel the punishments of any convict. If they are, requesting the president to reduce or cancel the punishment, the president has that power to reduce or cancel the punishments. Next is welfare functions. Okay, in modern times, the primary duty, the main duty of the executive is to take welfare measures, is to undertake welfare measures. It should make policies and programs for the development and for improving the living standard of the people. That is the prime duty of the executive in the modern times. Okay, when government is making policy, it should be benefit to all. Okay, that should be the motto or the aim of the policy. Many people should get benefited with it. So it automatically leads to the development, and it will improve the standard of living of the people. Okay, so that is welfare function. I hope I'm clear with the functions of the executive. So executives, who are the executives? The head of the state or the head of the government. In case of parliamentary form of government, we will have two executives. So head of the state and head of the government. Then the team of the prime minister, that is council of ministers, and all the government employees, they are called as executives. Okay, coming to the functions, It performs, that is, administrative function, legislative function, financial function. Defense and foreign affairs is the responsibility of the executive. Judiciary functions and welfare functions. If you are learning this 6 points, okay, it is a 10-mark question. 6 points, 6 simple points will fetch you 10 marks. Okay. Let us move to the next one. That is judiciary. Judiciary, it is the third organ of the government. Okay. In parliamentary form of government, judiciary is more dominant than executive and legislature. So, what are the functions of the judiciary? Judiciary, it protects the citizens. Okay, it protects your rights, it protects your freedoms, it protects the citizens. Whenever you have any problem, you can go to court of law to protect your rights. And while protecting the citizens, it will punish the criminals. It will punish the criminals. Okay, if anybody is involved in crime, the judiciary will punish it after due trial. Okay, so it decides the constitutional validity of the laws made by the legislature. So laws made by the legislature, whether they are according to the constitution or not, that is checked by the judiciary. So the judiciary, it interprets the law. It checks the laws whether they are according to the constitution or not. Okay. So apart from providing justice, judiciary performs many other functions. The main function of the judiciary is dispensing justice. Dispensing means providing, giving justice. Okay, it will settle the dispute between the citizens and citizens. Okay, it will settle the disputes between two citizens or two organizations or an organization and citizen. Then it will settle the dispute between citizen and government. Okay, it will settle the disputes between two people. It will settle the dispute between a citizen and the government, or if there is a differences between the governments. If there is disagreement or dispute between the governments, that is also settled by the courts. That is also settled by the courts. Okay. Then it punishes the criminals after due trial. Okay. After trial, the criminals will be punished by the judiciary. So the main function of the judiciary is to provide justice, dispense justice, or give justice. The next is protection of civil rights. Protection of civil rights. So the court will protect the fundamental rights of the people by issuing writs. By issuing writs. For example, if there is a threat to the person X, if there is threat to the life of person X, okay, then he can go to court and court will issue orders for his protection. Okay, if somebody is threatening the X that they'll kill him, then he can go to court for the protection. And court will issue writs. What are writs? Writs means orders. Writs means orders. So court will issue orders to protect the rights of the people. Okay. So it is protecting the civil rights. Next, protection of equilibrium in federal system. Now, what is a federal system? In federal system, we will have two governments, central government and state government. We will have to governments in federal system. So what is the judiciary doing here? The judiciary, it is settling the disputes between the central and the state government. If there is any disagreement or conflict or dispute between the governments, that is settled by the court. Okay, so here it is maintaining balance. Okay, equilibrium means balance between the governments. Okay, so it is protecting the equilibrium of the federal system. Next is advisory functions. Okay, the highest court of justice, that is the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court is the highest court of justice. So it will provide advice to the head of the state. Who is the head of the state in parliamentary system? It is president. Even in presidential system, the president is the head of the state. So whenever the president seek advice from the Supreme Court or request for an advice from the Supreme Court on legal matters of national importance, on any matter of national importance, the president can request for the advice from the Supreme Court. Okay, so here it is its advisory function. The court is advising the head of the state on request. Okay, so here that is why we say it is advisory function. Okay, it is providing advice to the head of the state on request. Okay, the highest court is Supreme Court. So when president he seeks advice from the court, it is compulsory on the part of the court to provide advice, to give advice. Following that advice is president's choice. Okay. Next, coming to the next point, that is appellate jurisdiction. Now here jurisdiction means limit. See, the the judgments given by the Supreme Court. The judgments given by the Supreme Court are applicable throughout the country. Okay. But what about the cases coming from the lower court to high court or from high court to Supreme Court? Okay. See, for example, here the judgment is given by the lower court or high court and you're not satisfied with it. Okay, the judgment is given by the lower court, then you're not satisfied, you are appealing to the high court. Okay, you are appealing to the high court. Then you're not happy with the judgment given by the high court also. Then you have the right to make appeal in the Supreme Court. Okay, you can make appeal in the Supreme Court. You can go to Supreme Court if you're not satisfied, if you're not happy with the judgments given by the High Court. Okay, so the highest court of justice, it has the power to change or reverse those judgments. So the judgments given by the High Court can be changed by the Supreme Court. Okay, that is appellate jurisdiction. You can appeal in the higher court. Okay, if you are not happy with the judgment of the lower court, you can appeal to the High Court. And if you are not happy with the judgment given by the High Court, then you can appeal to the Supreme Court. The next is protection of the records. The judiciary, the courts will preserve all the judgments given by them. Okay, courts, be it High Court, lower court, or Supreme Court, they will preserve all the cases. They'll preserve the judgments of all the cases along with them. Okay, and these records these records will help the lawyers and judges in the trial of similar cases. Okay, the judgments given by the court are preserved, are recorded, and these judgments can be used as guidelines in the future. Okay, so that is, it is protecting all the records, all the judgments. It is keeping records of all the judgments. Next is providing service regulations. Providing service regulations. Regulations means rules. So the court will provide rules and regulations for the administration of the lower courts. How the lower courts should function. Okay, the timings, the number of judges in the court. Okay, then the clerical staff of the court. Okay, or how they should function, when the court will have holiday, all that is decided by the High Court. Okay, so it makes rules and regulations for the administration of the lower courts. Okay, the next is functioning as the head of the state. Functioning as the head of the state. So, the Chief Justice of Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of Supreme Court can act as head of the state, that is the president. The Chief Justice of Supreme Court can act as a president. When will it act as a president? When there is a vacancy to the position of president. If president is removed or president dies or he resigns, then the Chief Justice of Supreme Court will act as the head of the state. But there is one condition here. What is that condition? If there is no vice president in the office. If there is no vice president, then the Chief Justice of Supreme Court will act as the head of the state. If there is vice president, then vice president will act as the head of the state. So this is one condition, that if there is no vice president in the office, if there is no vice president, then the Chief Justice of Supreme Court can act as the head of the state. Okay, in the absence of the president, if there is no vice president's office, then the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court will act as the head of the state. Am I clear with this? Okay. So let us quickly see the side headings. See, if you are able to understand the side headings, then you can write it in your own words. Okay, it is very easy. Remember, students, you should write the side headings. Your side headings itself will fetch you the marks. So what are the functions of the judiciary? The first function is dispensing justice, providing justice. Then protecting the civil rights, the rights of the people. Judiciary, it protects the rights of the people. Then protecting the equilibrium in federal system. That means it will settle the dispute between the central and the state government. Then it acts as advisor to the head of the state. Then appellate jurisdiction. If you're not satisfied with the judgment of the lower court, you can appeal to the highest court of justice, and the court has the power to change or reverse the judgments given by the lower courts. Then it acts as the court of record. You can also say court of record. It protects, it preserves all the judgments, okay, of all the cases, and these judgments can be used by the lawyers and the judges in similar cases. Okay. Next, providing service regulations. So it will also make rules and regulations for the administration of the lower courts. And it functions as the head of the state. The Chief Justice of Supreme Court will act as the president when there is a vacancy to the office of the president. But there is one condition, that there should not be the office of vice president. So when there is no office of vice president, then the Chief Justice of Supreme Court will act as the head of the state. Let us now move to the next topic, that is your short answers. What are the reasons for the decline of significance of legislature? If you see, in modern democratic countries, the legislature, it is losing its significance. So what do you mean by significance? Importance. Importance. Okay, legislature, it is losing its importance. So what are the reasons for it? Let us discuss. So the executive, they have acquired lot of power for socio-economic development. Now, the government, it does not focus on making new laws. The main focus of the government is on socio-economic development. Okay. So the legislature, so no laws are made now. That is why the significance of legislature is losing. Okay, or declining. The significance of legislature is declining because the executives, they are more focused on socio-economic development. Then many a times it happens that the legislators, the lawmakers, they don't have the capacity to understand the technical implications of lawmaking. They don't know how the laws are to be made. Scientific and technical knowledge they don't have of lawmaking. Okay. So that is the another reason. See, most of the legislature, they are not well educated. Okay. So they don't have the knowledge of lawmaking. That is another reason. Then the chief executive, that is in presidential form, the chief executive, that is the president, the head of the state. The president is directly elected by the people. The president is directly elected by the people, and he is directly in relation with the people. Okay. What happens in parliamentary form? The legislators, that is the member of the parliament, they are elected by the people. Okay. So in presidential system, the president himself is directly elected by the people. So here the legislature has less importance. Okay, in presidential form of government, when the chief executive, that is head of the state, or we say president, he is directly elected by the people, he is in direct relation with the people, the legislature has less importance or no importance. Okay. Then sometimes the legislature delegates lawmaking power to the executive. So just now we have seen the word ordinance. Ordinance. I told you these are the temporary laws. Ordinance is nothing but the temporary laws. When legislature is not functioning, then the executive, that is president, has the power to make laws. They are temporary laws. So what happened here? The executive has got power to make the law. He has got the power to make the law. So there is no need of legislature. So here this ordinance is also called as delegated legislation. Okay. So this is the another reason why the power or the legislature is losing its importance or significance. Okay, the lawmaking power is delegated to the executive, is given to the executive. Okay, so this 4 points, 4 simple points will fetch you 5 marks. It is very easy. See, in 5 marks, you can expect one of these 2 questions: reasons for decline in the significance of legislature, or reasons for the growth of importance of the executive. Reasons for the growth of importance of the executive. Just now we have seen the reasons how legislature is losing its importance. Okay. So let us now see the reasons for the growth of importance of executive. The executive have become more important than legislature or any other organ. What are the reasons? Because of the concept of welfare state. Okay. Because of the concept, what is a welfare state? Where there is no unemployment, where there is no poverty, then it is called as welfare state. And due to some international obligations, the executive powers are increased. The importance of executive has increased. Okay. So let us see some of the reasons. Expansion of government activity. Okay. Earlier, the government was compiled to make the laws. Okay. Government was compiled to make the laws. Now, the concept of welfare state made the executive take up various programs in socio-economic spheres. So, see, when we discussed the decline in the significance of legislature, what did I tell you? Now, the executives, they are more focused on making new policies and programs for the welfare of the society, socio-economic development. So, as laws are not made now, many laws are not made, so the legislature is losing its importance. So, because of the same reason, the executive is gaining the importance. Legislature is losing the importance and executive is gaining the importance because of the focus on making policies and programs for the welfare of the society. Okay. So here the expansion of the government activity. Now it is not constrained to the lawmaking. Okay. Government activity is not constrained to the lawmaking, but it has taken up, making policies and programs for the welfare of the people. Then next is long intervals between legislative sessions. Long intervals between legislative session is the another reason for the increase or growth in the importance of executives. Okay, so long intervals in the legislative sessions will delay lawmaking process. Okay, so then the executive, through delegated legislation, the executive are able to make the laws. Then the leadership of the executive. In parliamentary form of government, the executive leads the legislature. Okay, the prime minister, he is the leader of the legislature. Then economic planning. Okay, modern welfare states, they give more importance to economic planning, again, which is the job of the executive. How can, like executive, it will make all the plans and policies for the welfare of the people. The next is power of the appointment. So all the major appointments are made by the executive to the various positions in the government. So this is another reason for growth in the importance of executive. And at the times of war and emergency, executive is more powerful. At the time of war and emergencies, executive is more powerful. So these are some of the reasons for the growth of importance of executive. Okay, it is completely opposite to the previous answer. In previous question, we have discussed the reasons for decline in the importance of legislature. As the powers of the executive have increased, the powers of the legislature got decreased. Okay, so out of these two questions, you can expect one question. Okay, we'll continue in the next session.